being the centenary of Guru Dutt, one of the legendary filmmakers of India, and it was his birthday actually on the 9th of July, which was 2 days ago, and we thought that let's have it on a Friday because then more people can come, and we thought that we would have a day-long affair of celebrating this maestro. And because it's something that was curated by the education team, we didn't just want to make it a showcase of only his films throughout the day. We thought that it's a very good time for us to sit back, revisit the work of this master, and that was made possible again because of the tremendous support that we here at KCC get from our chairperson, Mrs. Richa Agarwal, and the tireless support from the Emami Foundation, because they are like our backbone. If they didn't support us in our endeavors, we wouldn't have been able to curate one interesting program after the other. So this is a day that is dedicated to Sri Guru Dutt, and what better way to begin the day than to have amidst us a scholar of such repute, none other than Dr. Ira Bhaskar. Dr. Ira Bhaskar is the former dean of the Arts and Aesthetics School at Jawaharlal Nehru University, but that's not where all her achievements stop, because you know, if I start going through all her academic career and her excellence, I think we'll take up most of your time. And I don't want to embarrass Ira, but she's very well known to us, and there are many generations of students, I think, who swear by her teaching on cinema studies, who have been at JNU, and they have been blessed by her teaching and her learning. And I have to say this about her, that when I reached out to her and I said that, you know, we are wanting to curate something like this, without hesitation, I asked her very hesitantly, Ira, would it be possible for you to come to Calcutta because we are curating something like this? And without hesitation, she said, yes, of course I'll come. You're doing something like this, and this is something that is so dear to me, I will definitely make it possible. And that's why this amazing lady is here with us this morning. And we requested Ira to deliver the keynote address for the morning, and with your permission, Ira, I'll just take one more minute to take everyone through the proceedings of the day. So Ira will be delivering the keynote address, then we'll have a break of about 10 minutes, after which yet another very, very kind-hearted person. And, you know, I think when we talk of legends, living legends, then I think their kindness and their humility comes through in the way they want to share their knowledge and their work. Because Nasreen Munni Kabir, who's at the moment in London, she also just gave selflessly, and she said, of course, you want to show the documentary that I've made on Guru Dutt, please go ahead. She said that time to my colleague that if I am in Calcutta, I'll be there in person, but if I can't be, then I will definitely interact with the audience, and she has sent us a message which will be played before her documentary. That's the first part of the morning. Then we break briefly for lunch, after which we have Dr. Madhuja Mukherjee coming from Jadavpur University. Madhuja also teaches cinema, as all of us know, in Calcutta. And she will be talking about Kagaz Ke Phool. And thereafter, we will have the end of proceedings, I think, if we can say, for the day, by showcasing possibly something that is so dear to all of us, the remastered version of Pyasa, the film by Guru Dutt. And I think, I don't want to make a generational statement, but I have to somehow. I think for people like us who grew up seeing these amazing films, I think every single song, every single scene, you know, when we were revisiting the print that came, you know, I don't know, we were just sighing and we were drooling. I think it's something that's ingrained in our system somehow. But what gives me immense pleasure is that I can see a lot of young faces in the audience, and let's hope the numbers grow, because, you know, this is something that we have to cherish. This is something that is part of what India stands for and Indian cinema stands for. So with that, we are so happy that so many of you have come in at 11 a.m. in the morning. I'm sure many more people will come. Inclement weather often deters people, but it's a day-long affair, and we are looking forward to having many lovers of Indian cinema, and particularly Shri Gurudutt amidst us. So without wasting any more time, I think I will hand over to Ira. Ira wants to be there because she has a lot to share of clips which she will talk about, etc. Can all of you see her? Because she's slightly in the dark. And you'll hear her. So it's over to you, Ira.
Thank you so much, Priyadarshini. It's a real delight to be in Kolkata, and thank you for the invitation. Gurudutt is, of course, an all-time favorite of mine as well as yours, I know. And so when I received it, and it is his centenary year, and I wanted to be part of the celebration. And so I'm really happy about this opportunity. When I was writing to you and Tirna was copied on the mails, I didn't know which Tirna this was. But this is Tirna Chatterjee, is our Tirna, because she did her PhD with us in JNU. So I was very delighted to see her at the airport yesterday. And she said, I told her, you horrible girl, why didn't you tell me that it's you? So I'm happy. So, and then I had this request from Priyadarshini that we're all wearing black and white because I've heard about your sari collection. I said, then this has to be Tirna, because who else would have told you that? So thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And I also want to say that had Gurudutt been alive, he would have been absolutely delighted, because Kolkata was his jaan. He loved Kolkata. He has set Pyasa, of course, here in Kolkata, as also Sahabibi Aur Ghulam is set in Bengal, and part of it is in Kolkata. Not necessarily shot here, all of it, but so he grew up here. Now, my title is a little different from what has been advertised, because I wanted to focus actually on Gurudutt's aesthetic, because we all know what wonderful films these are. We all love the songs, and as she said, you know, as you go over the songs or the film, as you go over the film, you get caught up in each song. When I play a clip, everybody wants to listen to the whole song right there and then, you know. That's the power of his music, of the music of his films. And he always selected the music directors with great care. And he was so deeply invested in the song picturization, and he was a master of song picturization. And that's why I also want to draw attention. It's not just songs, but it's also the camera work. It's also the lighting. Lighting has a very key role in the way in which the shot comes on screen, and the way in which the choreography of the song, but also the dialogues is done. So choreography, not just for dance sequences. Choreography, I'm using choreography more metaphorically as to way in which light is choreographed, the way in which dialogues are choreographed, and of course the way in which the camera choreographs the sequences, the song sequences. So choreography with light and movement and molding with music is the title that I have here. And of course, form, affect, ideology. As I go along, you will see what I exactly mean by that. Now, I've put down points, and I'll just talk over them. You don't have to read everything just there as a guide for me also. But basically, I'm going to begin at the beginning, which is that he lived in Calcutta. He moved here when he was 4 or 5 years old, and grew up here until he left for Almora, the Uday Shankar's Dance Institute, the cultural center in Almora, at the end of 1941. And he was there through 42, 43, and in 44 the center closed down and he had to come away. And that's when he began. His family had already moved to Bombay, so he moved there. Now, why am I beginning with Almora? The reason I'm beginning with Almora is he was trained in the arts of performance there. He was trained as a dancer. He was trained in music. And he was trained in, of course, light light, the way in which you use light for performance. And he was, of course, trained in performance, right? So the way, and he was, as a child, he was very interested in puppet shows and magic lanterns. So he was already invested in the play of light and darkness before he went to Almora. And Almora gave him the chance. I mean, it honed his talents. He was a very good dancer. And actually speaking, it's that training in Almora that you can see in present in later on in the way in which he crafts his films. Now, of course, one can't ignore the people who worked with him, like V.K. Murthy and like the music directors and like the performers and, all of that. And the lyricists, very important because he didn't know Urdu so well. He didn't know Hindustani so well. He spoke fluent Bangla, by the way. He spoke fluent Bangla and it was his life's dream to make a film in Bengali. He started a film, unfortunately, called Gauri, which he shot here also. It was 12 days of shooting was done here, but then he didn't like the results very much and he's very finicky. Perfection is very finicky, so he dumped it. He also was very expensive. But because he was filming for his own production company, he didn't care. He would put the money in. So he was that kind of an aesthete. He was really an aesthete. It's also very important to understand that he comes from mainstream cinemas. He is not an art cinema filmmaker. I mean, the other figure whose centenary it is this year is Ritik Ghatak. And Ritik Ghatak is, again, an all-time, obsession of mine. So I will be back in Kolkata for a seminar on Ghatak later in November. But, these two figures, and again, it's very nice for me. They're both born in the same year and so on. But that's also a melodramatic form. Gurudutt is a melodramatic form. And I want to insist on this a little because he's an auteur. Definitely, Gurudutt is an auteur because he sort of pays attention to every little detail of the film. He used to sit on the edit, he used to go over the script, everything, every single thing. And of course, he's a great actor. I mean, his cinema, the early cinema, is also full of a lot of fun, a lot of fun, and all of that comes out of the early 50s period of Bombay cinema. So he comes from mainstream cinemas, and there are two mainstream influences on him. One is the Indian cinemas. He was very fond of watching Bengali films because there was a theatre next in Bhawanipur where he lived. There was a single screen theatre called Jyoti where he'd go all the time and he'd watch all the films there. And then, of course, he watched the Bombay films as well. And the other cinema that had a lot of influence on him was Hollywood. And I put down some names there. So after Almora shut down, the center shut down, he was taken by his uncle to Pune, where he worked for a while in Prabhat Film Studios, and he was hired as a choreographer. That's also very important. And he also did some minor roles in films there and worked as an assistant director. Then he moved to Bombay, where again he worked as an assistant director. So I put down some names. P.C. Barua, he really loved P.C. Barua's work. And you can see, if you do an in-depth study, you see a lot of influence. Devdas, of course, but there are others also. Nitin Bose, I mean, Vidyapati was another favorite film of his, and you actually see that in Kagaz Ke Phool because there is a reference to Vidyapati. So Devaki Bose, Nitin Bose, Barua, of course, Fali Majumdar, and others. So these are Bengali filmmakers. He was very, very, because he was watching all these films in the 30s and 40s, right? So he grew up on this cinema. And what are those films? They are the great melodramatic tradition of Bangla cinema. In Bombay, in Pune, he worked with Prabhat Studios, Shantaram, of course. But then he comes to Bombay, and he's influenced by Gyan Mukherjee because he worked with him as an assistant, Shashardar Mukherjee, Kamal Amrohi, and many others. But he was constantly molding and constantly crafting his own technique. Because he grew up in commercial cinema, because he was watching all of this, he wanted to do something different. He knew that work, but he wanted to do something different. And his melodramas, there are a lot of romantic comedies and romantic melodramas that he made. And you can see the tradition from King Vidor, Max Ophuls, Curtis, Victor Fleming, Douglas Sirk. The reason I'm saying this is because I want to also emphasize that cinema is a global form. It has always been a global form. And earlier film studies didn't pay as much attention to this idea that actually filmmakers and audiences were seeing films from other parts of the world in different locations. In India, definitely, we were watching Hollywood films, we were watching German films, we were watching Russian films. In the 30s, we were watching a lot of films from a lot of international cinema. And when sound came in 1931, when sound technology was available in 1931, markets began to shrink a little bit because you had to understand the language. So theaters like New Theaters and Prabhat and all started making bilingual films. The same film in English, in the local language, Bangla and Hindi, Marathi and Hindi and Hindustani and so on. So this is the film historical context in which one needs to place Guru Dutt. And I emphasize once again, he's a mainstream auteur, a mainstream filmmaker. Okay, now all this exposure to cinema, to performance, to lighting, etc., obviously impacted his own film aesthetic, in which I have said the choreography of light and music was central. So choreographing light, how do you choreograph light? How do you choreograph the movement of light? And of course music and camera movement. So he would pay attention to everything. That's why his cinema is different from the other filmmakers of the time, right? So his first film is Baazi, 1951. And you see the first three images on this slide. They're all from Baazi. And you can see the noir effect. You can see the crime cinema of Hollywood, 1940s, the impact of that kind of chiaroscuro lighting, light and dark, and light strips. And you can see in the first slide, this kind of gambling den, this kind of crime mise en scène. The setting was there, a lot of it was there in Hollywood of the time. So he's drawing from that. Jal, his second film, 1952, was also a film about a petty thief and sort of, grey characters. Devanand, that is the hero, is a grey figure. And you again see the lighting, and then there's, of course, Arpar. Now I'm going to show you the song from Arpar, which is also playing outside, but so that you can enjoy it here, hopefully.
कर भी ले नजर को चार प्यार की नजर से दूर यूं न जिंदगी गुजार हुस्न तू है इश्क में कर भी ले नजर को चार
चार मैं नजर करूं और फिर से चार मैं नजर करूं और फिर हुजूर से पास यूं न आइए बात कीजिए दूर से जा 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 बेवफा कैसे प्यार कैसे प्रीत रे तू ना किसी का मीत रे झूठ तेरे प्यार की कसम
अरे वाह सुन 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 जालिमा
जा
Okay, so not nice now to cut it like this, but what to do? We have to get on. Shall I just go here? Right. So this will happen with all the slides. And I remember whenever I start showing Guru Dutt, speak about him or the 1950s and come to Guru Dutt from the other filmmakers, everyone wants to hear all the songs, sare songs sunna hai unko. Because if you look at 1951 is also Avara, and I mean that also has beautiful songs. But if you think of compare them with these films, there's no comparison. All right. So along with the choreography of light and camera, it was music, as you can see. Now this music, Majrooh Sultanpuri is the lyricist, and S.D. Burman is the music director. And you can see S.D. Burman, of course, is a master himself. And he can actually compose music for very different kinds of moments, different kinds of situations, different kinds of genres as well. So here is this light, frothy, young, very youthful, fun-filmed song, right? And there are many, many others from the early period. And they were all chart busters, all these songs, right? So, of course, Baazi was a great hit, and Jal was also a hit, not as much as Baazi. Baaz, the third film, was a disaster, but Aar Paar was another huge hit, followed by the next hit of his, which is Mr. and Mrs. 55. Now, before we get to Mr. and Mrs. 55, let me point to his key collaborator, V.K. Murthy. And without his contribution to lighting and camera movement, Dutt's aesthetic would not have been possible. However, it's also important for me to say that Dutt had a very clear idea of how the camera should move. And if it wasn't working, he wouldn't shoot that day. And so I don't want to give you so many anecdotes. There are anecdotes about how he canceled shooting because it was not coming okay. He went away, sat and thought about it and came back. Murthy has talked about the day that I think the film, there are 3 different versions of Nasreen's film on Guru Dutt. In one version, Murthy says in the interview, when she interviews him, that when Guru Dutt died, Murthy, of course, was very, very sad because they'd worked closely, but he also said, there goes my technique. There goes my technique. Because actually, it was Guru Dutt who was responsible for his innovations, Murthy's innovations, right? And of course, music directors in the combinations of Sahil Ludhianvi and S.D. Burman and Majrooh Sultanpuri and O.P. Nayyar. With Geeta Dutt. Geeta Dutt, his wife, who was a big star singer in her time, was also very, very important for his cinema. Now, so just a very aesthetic kind of point I want to make here, that during this whole period, in the early period, Dutt was had already internalized what I have called a developing Indian melodramatic aesthetic in the 1940s, which I've described in an essay as expressionist orality. Expressionist orality, which means the stylized amplification, heightening of emotion, and exteriorizing of emotion via the song, there it is, via the song combined with visual expressionist idioms, which is this chiaroscuro lighting, dark and light, and the play of dark and light, which would be crucial for his own melodramatic idiom. It was central to Guru Dutt's melodramatic idiom. Now, while Pyasa and Kagaz Ke Phool and Zah Bibi Aur Ghulam are, of course, very mature examples of this form, even in an early film, like in a romantic comedy like Mr. and Mrs. 55, there are several sequences where this deeper emotional evocations of interiority are actually articulated. And it's articulated through the play, the movement of camera and the play of light. And in order to do that, let us now see, hopefully, yeah.
तुम हंसी हो
Watch camera movement and lighting. The camera is constantly moving as other performers. The camera is on a crane and it's tracking on the crane, moving sideways, up, down. Now see, moving in. Can you see the camera moving in? To medium close up, and then it will move to close up also.
इधर देखती हूँ नजारा जवां है
उधर तुम हंसी हो,
Again, he is
इधर
moving
दिल
or the camera is
जवां है,
moving?
ये रंगीन रातों
Moving towards
की
camera,
एक
camera is going back.
दास्तां है।
ये कैसा है नगमा,
She's far away, but the flow of his desire
मोहब्बत मेरा दिल
carries the camera towards
है,
her.
ये कैसा है नगमा।
सुलगती है तारों की परछाइयाँ, बुरी है मोहब्बत की तन्हाइयाँ। सुलगती है तारों की परछाइयाँ, बुरी है मोहब्बत की तन्हाइयाँ।
महकने लगा मेरी जुल्फों
Camera moving
में
forward
कोई,
on a crane.
जागने धड़कने सोई सोई, मेरी हर नजर आज दिल की जुबां है।
उधर तुम
Okay. Just half a minute of this.
दुनिया लुट रही थी और मैं खामोश था, टुकड़े टुकड़े दिल के चुनता,
कव्वाली.
टुकड़े टुकड़े हाँ हाँ, टुकड़े टुकड़े दिल के चुनता, किसको इतना होश था। मेरी दुनिया लुट रही थी
Notice
और
camera.
मैं खामोश था, आहे मेरी दुनिया लुट रही थी
He is walking
और
towards the
मैं
camera. So
खामोश
constant
था।
movement on the screen.
आँख में आंसू न थे।
Okay. And we'll go to the next one. Oh no, sorry. आइए. Sorry. Clips में जाना है. अब फिर से कीजिए. इससे निकलना है. स्लाइड में नहीं आना है, वो क्लिप्स में जाना है. एक और क्लिप दिखा दो. एस्केप करूँगी. यहाँ यहाँ पे. अच्छा. Okay, now I want to. So I've been talking about the camera movement, choreography of movement and light, and the music, etc. While the music remains constant, there is another variation of this technique in which the role of Guru Dutt's choice of shots, so editing, is very, very important. Okay. Now I'm showing you the ending of Mr. and Mrs. 55. And I want you to notice the edits. So what has happened is that this is the ending of the film. If you haven't seen it, Anita is the name of Madhubala. She has just realized that she's missing out on her love for him, and her aunt has got divorce proceedings on, which she doesn't want, and she wants to be with him, but he is leaving for Delhi. And so she comes to the airport and she hears that the plane has already taken off. Look at the close up. 3 times. So notice the edit here, the cuts, and the song, of course. Performance, of course. Another close up. Cut into close up. Holds the close up as the lyrics. So combining the lyrics with the shot. So he hasn't gone yet. So, oh dear. Okay. So yeah, so you see, what I'm trying to point out here is the way in which, in a romantic comedy like Mr. and Mrs. 55, you have in the sequences that I've shown you, Gurudat plumbing the depths of interiority and the loss and the suffering that he feels, and that his no, इसको full कैसे करें? Full कीजिए इसको. नहीं ऐसे होगा. Full में जाना. Slide. Next. ये भी next हो गया. यहाँ ये वाला नहीं, इससे पहले. हाँ, इसको full कैसे करेंगे? ये नहीं आ रहा है, नीचे वाला अगर जाता है ना, should I go on this? नहीं, next. Okay, so we'll move now. I've spoken a lot about his choreography and so on. Moving now to the the big films, Pyasa onwards. And since you're going to see Pyasa this afternoon, I won't show the clips in great detail, but I would like to make my points here. So remember that 1957, which is the year that this film is released, is also the release of Mother India, Naya Daur, Do Aankhein Bara Haath, and many others. And Pyasa was the third highest grossing film of the year after Mother India and Naya Daur. So this was, of course, has been his all-time most popular film, which earned the most amount of money. At the same time, it's important to understand, when you place Pyasa with the other films, what is Pyasa doing, or how is it different? And it is very different because this is a film that's a critique, actually, of the nationalist project and in a way, the surrendering or giving up on the promises of independence and, the promises to alleviate poverty and make individual lives better. It's a very, very hard-hitting critique of capitalism with its prostitution of human emotions and values at the altar of capital. At the center, of course, of the film is Vijay, the poet, who feels the selfishness of individuals deeply and who puts into poetic verse his disillusionment with the nation and his critique of capitalism. Simultaneously, also, his vision of a purity of motives and values gets articulated. Now, running through the film is the trope of prostitution. Now, literally prostitution and metaphorically prostitution, okay? So the poor prostitute, so there is a woman who's a prostitute, Gulabo, and her friend, and played by Kumkum, Wahida Rahman and Kumkum, the two prostitutes you actually see. But Gulabo, that's Wahida Rahman, she of course has to earn her money, and she's a prostitute to earn and to survive. But when she is in love, when she falls in love with him, she cares nothing about her earnings. And at the end of the film, she gives everything she has to have his poems published, right? So contrast her with Mala Sinha, the character of Mala Sinha, who is in love with him, but who, in a way, marries for money. So who is the real prostitute here? So that's what I mean by the metaphor of prostitution, And through the film, the prostitution idiom, the trope of prostitution, because there's the prostitution of the body, of the woman who sells her body to survive, and there is the prostitution of human values at the altar of capital. Human values have no consequence here. Money is all that is important. So this is running through the film. What I'm going to do is to use two sets of sequences. For the first one, which is centered around prostitution, which I'm going to show through the two songs, And then another set of two songs through which the critique of capitalism is very, very strong. Okay. So the first song, of course, that I want to is Aaj Sajan Mohe Ang Laga Lo, right? Which is being sung by a Vaishnav Bairagan. So the Bairagan, and you see her there, is singing the song, and Gurudutt cuts from her, and most of the song is being filmed on Wahida Rehman. Okay, and I want also to, so it's cutting between the two women, and they're both yearning for their beloved. So the Jogan or the Bairagan is singing a very erotic song. The words are very, very erotic, and this is there in Bhakti poetry, that Bhakti poetry is extremely erotic. Mira's work is very erotic. So this is a very, very erotic spiritual song, and the filming of this song is on the prostitute, who is not behaving in an erotic manner, whose devotion and love actually have a sacred kind of connotation. So if you see the way the film Gurudutt cuts between these two, Murthy is cutting between the two, camera movement also. And I just want to show you this sequence so that you can also look at the film, look at the sequence when you watch the film, watch her expressions in those two slides. Let's see. Something garbad ho gaya. Okay. Pyasa. ये है पैसा, ये वाला दिखाना, ये वाला, ये लास्ट.
हो जाए आज सजनी सब शीतल हो जाए, आज सजन मोहे अंग लगा लो, जन्म सफल हो जाए.
Implication of her words are being obviously seen on her face, by her face. As she sings, there's an ascent. She's climbing up. Moving, panning and tracking in. So the bhav of the Jogan song actually being articulated through the abhinay of the actress. Track back.
अपना बना लो, ओ मोहे अपना बना लो, मोरे बाह पकड़ मैं हूँ जन्म जन्म की दासी, मोहे अपना बना लो, मोरे बाह पकड़ मैं हूँ जन्म जन्म की दासी, मोरी
and the silence of Gulabo, who again as camera is moving towards him, the camera movement articulating her desire to be with him. Right? The camera pushes her back. Yeah. choked with desire of these two women for the beloved, for their beloved. Okay. We'll go to the next song from the same. Of course, the famous song. We are with the trope of prostitution. Now this time he is literally in the red light area. You will just see a little bit, you can focus more on it. His perspective.
ये पूछे घर दिल कशी के, ये पूछे ये नीलाम घर दिल कशी के, ये लुटते हुए कारवां जिंदगी के, कहाँ है मुहाफिज खुदी के, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर वो कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है.
I'll stop here because it's a very long song and you're watching the film, so I won't. I'll do the other two clips from Pyasa and then we'll. So these two, I see these two song sequences as very deeply invested in articulating, you know, the condition of women, especially poor women, forced into prostitution. But then extending that trope of prostitution into society itself, right? So these two. And then I move to another two sequences in which the critique of capitalism is very, very strong. Notice the crucifixion pose. We go to the final sequence, penultimate sequence. The same crucifixion.
उन्हें शोहरत का ताज पहनाना चाहिए. हर एक जिस्म घायल, हर एक रूह प्यासी, निगाहों में उलझन, दिलों में.
So Pyasa in 1957 really stands apart from the other films.
ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो क्या है, ये दुनिया अगर.
So the poet as an outsider figure, the poet as critic, the poet as the rejected one. Okay, so the you're watching Pyasa, so we don't have to go into. Let's go full. So I've already spoken about this, and I think just I've put down here the words here when he's speaking, the words of the lyrics of the song. बिछड़ गया हर साथी देके पल दो पल का साथ, किसको फुर्सत है जो थामे दीवानों का हाथ, हमको अपना साया तक अक्सर बेजार मिला, हमने तो जब कलियां मांगी कांटों का हार मिला. Now, so the powerful lyrics of Sahir Ludhianvi Murthy's camera work, expressionist lighting, camera movement, the dollies, the close-ups, the mise-en-scène compositions, S.D. Burman's music and Gurudat's performance all lift these sequences into a rousing of the nation's conscience and a strong poetic denouncement of the social world in which there is no value for human sympathy, concern for one's fellow beings, for art and poetry, and for anything that cannot be measured in the scales of money. Similarly, so the second sequence in which I've coupled these song sequences, two earlier, two now. The lyrics of this, I mean, you already know what the song is. The image of crucifixion conveys the death of all that is valuable in a dead and valueless world that rejects all that is pure, conscience imbued and caring, as it rejects the poet whose creative vision, the world, poetic vision sees clearly the world that is sterile. So, ye dunya mil bhi jaye to kya hai? And then the resounding rejection of this world. Because at the end of Ye Dunya Mil Bhi Jaye, he says, Jala do, phuk dalo ye dunya, etc., etc. And then that's of course, you know, very, very kind of, there's a crescendo of music and also the singing, a very powerful singing at that point. In a quieter tone, when he, of course, he's beaten up and all that, he comes into, he's pushed into the office and he confronts Mala Sinha, who says, why are you doing this? And he says something that's very important. मुझे किसी इंसान से कोई शिकायत नहीं, मुझे शिकायत है समाज के उस ढांचे से जो इंसान को से उसकी इंसानियत छीन लेता है, मतलब के लिए अपने भाई को बेगाना बनाता है, दोस्त को दुश्मन बनाता है. So all human relations, all human values are sacrificed at the altar of capital, are measured only in terms of material value. ऐसे माहौल में मुझे कभी शांति नहीं मिलेगी मीना, he says. And he leaves the world, leaves this world and goes away. So it is actually Gulab with whom he goes away. I won't show the clip, you will see the film anyway. But it's very important, please note when you're watching the ending, that the music at that time is the music of Aaj Sajan. So it is the devotional idioms which define that love. So ironically, paradoxically, the prostitute's love is more divine, more holy, more sacred than the love of the woman who he was in love with first, right? The Meena who's married to. Okay, Kagaz Ke Phool. Now we move to the next one. I've called it a meta-cinematic commentary on a capitalist film industry. Unlike the poet of Pyasa, here you have Suresh Sinha, the filmmaker, who's making the film Devdas, as you know. The opening of the film makes us enter, along with the once filmmaker, the studio spaces of Ajanta Pictures, where he had made several successful films. And all the, now of course, as an artist, he's discarded by this society. He enters his temple of art to feel once again the world that had rejected him. The opening sequences and its shots clearly establish this film as one that loves the art of cinema. So the opening sequences of Kagaz Ke Phool, really sort of with the camera and movements and Suresh Sinha in this space, is creating the world of cinema, this world that he actually loves. So the space of cinema, the technology of cinema, the craft of filmmaking, and as a film that reflects upon the illusory nature of the success of film enterprise, since it is dependent on capital investment and also on reception and the public. It is clear from the opening that the context of this film is the late 1930s, when the studio system was at its height, during which period cinema as a musical and melodramatic public art form was just being consolidated and the stardom of the performers was contained within the studio system. This context is established by the posters of Vidyapati that seem to have just been released in the film in the early part, and the success of which the early part of the film is celebrating. Now, Suresh Sinha's, in the film, the director's art, cinematic art, musical, poetics, deeply sensitive, articulation of human emotions, it's implied by the references to both Vidyapati and Devdas, which he is making now. So while the films, this reference to, which is what I spoke about in the early part, this is the aesthetic that he was drawing upon. This is the world, this is the aesthetic world from which Gurudutt was molding his own particular cinematic form. So it's clearly a self-reflexive and a very reflective take on cinema, the film industry, and also the tragic denouement of star directors that gestures towards the artist's position and value in a capitalist society. So you see now here You see him on the crane shooting, you see the studio and so on. The process of filmmaking, how he's in a quest for Paro, and her unwitting entry into the studio, and the rushes that bring to life Sinha's imagination of Paro. Now, clearly how camera work, lighting, close-ups, and projection. Projection very important, because with the projection you have this big image, the close-up of Wahida here, recreate the magic of cinema on screen. Also, it's not so clear here, but this was India's first CinemaScope film. He wanted to make a CinemaScope film, and wanted Gauri to be that film, but that was shelved. That was dropped by him. So then Kagaz Ki Phool becomes that. I want to now talk a little bit about that, the very famous, beam of light sequence. A lot of people have written about it. V.K. Murthy has talked about it. But everyone has talked about it in terms of Waqt Ne Kiya. If you watch the film carefully, much before Waqt Ne Kiya, you have sequences where this happens. Now, this is the sequence when Paro, there's a lot of debate on whether Wahida is going to be Paro or not. Shanti, the actress called Shanti, is going to be Paro or not. He is very clear, and everyone is against it. And Suresh says to them, just get her changed into Paro's outfit, makeup kara ke bhejo usko andar. And he is in the studio, and there is light, the same light from the ceiling, directed into the studio, before this also. And then she enters. And you see her entering, and you see the light ray, and you see both of them in the light below. And he says that, I'm absolutely convinced, nothing can change. And then you have the last, there are many shots I could have taken, but the last one, and you see them both sitting. He has handed her the script of Devdas, and he's saying, these are your dialogues. And they're looking at it. So what is the light doing here? And here, to me, it seems that light is that inner illumination, his conviction, that sense that I see what is important. It's a realization. It's a magical being, bringing into being an emotional and spiritual connection. So the intense pleasure of filmmaking, you see you see the sequences from Devdas that are being shot. The first one, when she's talking to her friend, and all of these sequences. This one has both in the same frame, both the director and the two actors. And then, of course, he's thrilled at what he sees, because the pleasure of filmmaking. So there is a very, very deep kind of articulation here of what cinema means, and his absolute love for cinema, and it's his passion, and it's the passion project that he's actually working on here. Now, of course, the choreography of light and camera movement. This is Waqt Ne Kiya, Kya Hasi Sitam. We can see this. Before we see the clip, closeness and distance. So metaphorically, through the light and through camera movement, the camera is constantly moving in this sequence. Semicircular tracks, crane movements, dollies of different kinds, crane tracking shots, fluid dolly movements, play of light beam horizontally. In the first one, the light is horizontal. You see here, light coming in from the door of the studio that's open, and also at the back here. You see here. And so you see, this sequence is really also choreography of light, along with the way in which emotions are being. Now, the vertical beam that both separates and brings Suresh and Shanti together, it separates them, but it also brings them together. Bekarar dil is tarah mile, jis tarah kabhi hum juda na the, etc., etc. No, I want to go to the clip. ये VLC में नहीं, VLC में कीजिए ये open with कर देते हैं.
वक्त ने किया क्या हंसी सितम
KP Azmi's lyrics, CinemaScope.
हम रहे न हम वक्त ने किया
Look at that spread. Moving camera. The magical effect of the light beam.
बेकरार दिल
Falling forward towards him.
जिस तरह मिले जिस तरह कभी हम जुदा न थे बेकरार दिल इस तरह मिले जिस तरह कभी हम जुदा न थे तुम भी
The-
खो
The
गए
camera moving towards
हम भी खो
and away
गए
from them
एक राह
articulates their desire and the
चल
reality.
के दो कदम वक्त ने किया क्या हंसी सितम तुम
Notice the lighting on her face and notice what happens now.
न हम वक्त ने किया
Dollowing around them, dollowing around the camera, and then in silhouette. Okay,
जाए
please watch it on your own on YouTube because, and we'll just quickly see the last. Again, ये फिर वही
उड़
होगा.
जा प्यार
Next one, next one, next one. ये वाला.
उड़ जा प्यासे भंवरे रस न मिलेगा खारों में कागज के फूल जहाँ खिलते हैं बैठना उन गुलजारों में नादान
I mean, I don't want to keep talking over the song, but the lyrics are really very powerful, very important here, and very tragic
की कश्ती
and ironic. Okay, I'm just going to go towards the end.
अब दुनिया कुछ
So it's coming down. It's the whole film is in flashback, and I want you to notice that beam of light once again in this end at the ending.
मन में या कांटों की भी आस नहीं मतलब की दुनिया है सारी बिछड़े सभी बिछड़े
And here too, the studio, you know, notice this light now.
The
same kind of vertical light, right?
बिछड़े सभी बारी बारी बिछड़े सभी
camera
बारी
going back, tracking back. Light, the same kind of vertical light. Okay. इसमें जाए? Yeah. Next, full कर दीजिए. We've already seen all this and we've talked about this. So this is masterpiece of lyrical poetic cinema of yearning and tragic love. Um, you know, this is towards the end of the film when she comes to try and get him back into filmmaking, and he says, you know, that सब कुछ खोने के बाद मेरे पास सिर्फ एक ही चीज बची, खुददारी, my pride, my dignity. I hand it to you. अगर तुम चाहती हो, you can take me to the producer, and she leaves, right? And the unraveling, the tragic unraveling of both Shanti and Suresh's life. We've just seen this particular sequence, and here's the ending. This is the light beam that I wanted to. So we've seen how earlier in the film, when he makes up his mind about her playing Paro, in that sequence, in of course Waqt Ne Kiya, and then at the ending when he dies. And this is the end of the cinematic narrative. He's bathed in the light beam as he sits on the director's chair that has poetically evoked inner illumination, realization, and acceptance that the desires of the heart cannot be realized in the historical context of the present, of his present. That love is not possible historically, it's not possible for him. And this is the cinematic narrative, end of the cinematic narrative of the struggle of the artist against a world that has no time for individual pain, inner turmoil, conflict, and failure, but also no time for an individual's self-respect, dignity, and pride, for the materialist world is one that prioritizes only personal self-interest, right? I haven't done Chaudhary Ka Chand. I'm focusing on Sahai Bibi Aur Ghulam, which I see as a critique of feudalism and the emergence of modernity. Now, everyone here knows it's Bimal Mitra's novel. There was a Bengali film also made. The themes I put down here: decline of feudalism, the emergence of modernity. So the Brahmo Samaj as the emergent modernizing force, as a reformist movement, modernizing impulse to rid Hinduism of its obsolete ritual practices and its caste discriminations. I see this film in terms of Raymond Williams's dominant emerging and residual historical forces. But of course, there's an interplay. So it's never the clear end of one age and the beginning of another. The residual continues as part of the emerging force while also present in dominant culture. Hence, there are social contradictions. Also, film about gender, the position of women, different kinds of women. You see Choti Bahu and Jabba completely different. Focus of women in feudal families and their conditions and histories, modernity and women in the Brahmo Samaj, but also the domination of patriarchy in both of these worlds and the contradictions about tradition and modernity that you see. Now, questions of authorship, very quickly, I'll raise this issue. Abrar Alvi is the director of the film, has been credited with direction, but both he and Satya Saran, who wrote the book, Guru Dutt, Abrar Alvi's Journey, 10 Years with Guru Dutt, she points out that he told her that he couldn't help being present. Of course, he was also an actor, so he was present quite a lot. But when it came to the song sequences, he had to direct. So he has directed all the song sequences. And she says that this is one aspect that he could not let go of. He could not bring himself to let the songs be directed by anyone else. He also says, Abrar Alvi, too much to his irritation, that he couldn't not direct Wahida Rahman. So even in the sequences where there are no songs but Wahida, he would always sort of come and he would be directing her. Nasreen Munni Kabir also says that he was an experienced director, etc. And it's because of the songs and because it has his aesthetic that people thought it was him. Now, I've just continued this question. If you read Bimal Mitra's book, I've read it in Hindi, and I think there's a Bengali version as well. But I've read it in Hindi, and if you read, the whole book is about Sahai Bibi Aur Ghulam and its shooting, etc. It's very clear in that book that Guru Dutt chased him. He wanted, first he got the rights for the book, somebody else wanted it, but he managed to get it. Then he wanted Bimal Mitra to come to Bombay and meet him. Then he convinced him to write the screenplay, the script. And then while they were in Khandala working on the script, Abrar Alvi was there, but he didn't know Bengali, right? And so basically, how the film is going to be conceptualized was being done in discussions, according to Bimal Mitra, between all of them, but basically it was Guru Dutt and him. And Abrar Alvi was basically translating it into Hindustani, and then he recorded the whole thing, which is what Guru Dutt always wanted done. He would record it in his own voice, right? So Bimal Mitra's book leaves no doubt that Sahab Bibi Aur Ghulam was Guru Dutt's passion project. Cinematically and in terms of the mood of the film, also his vision is very clear. Murthy's cinematography, lighting, a certain cinematic fullness where we see similarities with Guru Dutt's other work. Song picturizations we've already talked about. I don't know, how much time can I take? 10 minutes, 5 minutes? Okay, great. Okay, so the opening of the film, this is also a film in flashback. You see the opening of the film, and the same song is actually done twice in the opening. So the first is when he enters, the Haveli is totally ruined, and there's the lunch break, and he walks up. And then, of course, the next sequence is when he remembers the song from his first night when he came there. All right, so now we have to go to, Kanu, try? ये आ जाता है क्लिप्स में जाना हाँ नहीं not here just to opening open with I can't imagine that this opening is not conceived by Guru Dutt, actually. But Abrar Alvi, no, I mean, if you read the book, there are many sequences he talks about. But look at this camera movement. And
आओ इधर आओ
the ruins of the past. Right? Think of the residual forces of the past in the present, even as it's changing rapidly.
बड़ी हवेली की एक अंदरात मैं तुड़वा रहा हूँ आज इसे मैं कभी क्या शान थी इस हवेली की बरसों पहले जब मैं देहात से कलकत्ते आया और पहली बार इस हवेली को देखा क्या शान थी
Okay, we'll go to the
चले आओ चले आओ कोई दूर से आवाज दे चले आओ.
Okay. Show the couple of the next two songs also now. कर दूं क्या? ये वाला. ये. Open with. एक. ये वाला. ये. Next. ये.
ऐसो जिया में समाए गयो रे कि मैं तन मन की सुध बुध गवा बैठी पिया. ऐसो जिया में समाए गयो रे कि मैं तन मन की सुध बुध गवा बैठी. हर आहट पे समझे ओ आए गयो रे. हर आहट पे समझे ओ आए गयो रे. झट घूंघट में मुखड़ा छुपा बैठी पिया. ऐसो जिया में समाए गयो रे. मैंने सिंदूर से मांग अपनी भरी रूप सैया के कारण सजाया. मैंने सिंदूर से मांग अपनी भरी रूप सैया के कारण सजाया. ओ मैंने सैया के कारण सजाया. इस डर से कि पी की नजर न लगे. इस डर से कि पी की नजर न लगे. झट नैनन में कजरा लगा बैठी पिया. ऐसो जिया में समाए गयो रे कि मैं तन मन की सुध बुध गवा बैठी. हर आहट पे समझे ओ आए
He comes in and she asks.
कुछ भी नहीं देख पाए.
क्या बकवास करती हो? मैं यहाँ बैठा तुम्हारा मुंह देखा करूं, इतनी फुर्सत नहीं.
Okay. Can we go back to the slide? So the first song is in Vira. The three songs of on Choti Bahu, Dur Se Koi Awaaz De, that one is in the mode of Vira. This is in the mode of Shringar. The other two are Shringar mode, right? And you can see here some of the screenshots of this film. So I've said this song is in Shringar Ras. Choti Bahu's desire for her husband, her attempt to attract him towards herself, obvious. Shringar to make herself alluring, her hope that her beauty will enchant him, and her disappointment when she fails. Now we go to the next one, which is a heightening of the Shringar Ras in न जाओ सैया छुड़ा के भैया. मचल रहा है सुहाग मेरा. I mean, look at the lyrics. मचल रहा है सुहाग मेरा. There's such a clear articulation of desire for her husband here. जो तुम ना होगे तो क्या करूँगी, etc., etc. So this entire song is picturized on the couple's bed, and it's a mise en scène that's soaked with Choti Bahu's desire for her husband. The erotics of the song immersed also in complete devotion, and the continuation of the Shringar Ras of the earlier song, right? And तुम्हारे चरणों में आ गई हूँ, etc., etc. Choti Bahu, picture of complete devotion. Now here the question of devotion and erotics, both that are present in this sequence. Remember Pyasa, also the Aaj Sajan Mohe Ang Laga Lo. So there is a kind of continuity of idioms and tropes that you have in his cinema. She has immersed her entire being in her love for her husband, whom she offers everything. And this is, of course, the tragically ironic picture of a woman who's not deeply appreciated or loved by the man she's devoted to. These last two frames are not from the song, they are from after the song. The reason I put them in here is because in Abrar Alvi's book, he talks about how Gurudat, he didn't want to be present when Gurudat was shooting the song. So he would leave the set. And Gurudat kept asking him, where do you want me to end the song? Tell me so that, you can. And he very gruffly, I think there was a lot of tension at that point, he said, you end it wherever you want, I will pick up from there. So the song ends with her falling at his feet, and he goes away, and Abral then actually picks up the whole thing, and this is also the sequence in which there's a long dialogue sequence in which she says, then make me also one of your mistresses, put me on Bagan Badi, the house in the garden, I'll change my name, blah blah blah. And he gets very angry, and she gives it back to him. She says, what have you given me? You've given me nothing. So these last two shots are from after the song has entered. And you can see here, the reason I put them here is because Alvi had been part of his team for 10 years. Murthy was also, had been. So clearly they knew his aesthetic. And there is a continuity in the aesthetic. There's no break at all, either in form, lighting, camera movement, or thematic resonances. Murthy's camera, Alvi's direction, elaborates the tragic situation of a devoted woman in the sterile feudal world of the Chaudhary Zamindari household. Now, can we see the song? Where is he gone? Ah, very good. Not opening. This one. Yeah, इसको now.
तैयार है माय बाप
ये वाला. Open with. We'll see.
तैयार है माय बाप
अच्छा
न जाओ सैया छुड़ा के बैया कसम तुम्हारी मैं रो पड़ूंगी मचल रहा है सुहाग मेरा जो तुम न होगे तो क्या करूंगी
Tracking into close up interaction between the two.
तुम्हारी मैं रो पड़ूंगी ये महकी चुनरी ये मन की मदरा ये सब तुम्हारे लिए है प्रीतम मैं आज तुमको न जाने दूंगी न जाओ सैया छुड़ा के बैया कसम तुम्हारी मैं रो पड़ूंगी
Okay, I mean, watch it on your own. And then the last clip, which is from the same film. Where is it? Opening. Yeah, this one. So this is Jabba's song. Jabba has actually 2 songs. And Choti Bahu has 3, and the 2 songs are contrasted. Notice the lighting,
मेरे मन में
the darkening as she begins, the darkening of the screen,
कह
and
ना
the slow
सके
release. Now she's in silhouette.
उलझन में। मेरी बात रही मेरे मन में, कुछ कह न
Oh, sorry.
सकी
I think the-
उलझन में। मेरी बात रही मेरे मन में, कुछ कह न सकी उलझन में। मेरे सपने अधूरे हुए नहीं पूरे, आग लगी जीवन में। मेरी बात रही मेरे मन में। कुछ कहते कुछ सुनते, क्यों चले गए दिल को मसल के। मेरी दुनिया हुई सूनी, बुझा आस का दीपक जल के।
In and out of dark and light.
छाया रे अंधेरा मेरी अखियों में। मेरी बात रही मेरे मन में, कुछ कह न सकी उलझन में।
Okay, just to end with a couple of slides. So here is the slide on this song. This song is in complete contrast to Bhavra Bada Nadan, right? And you think that she is this mischievous, very naughty, sort of figure, but actually you see the depths of her emotion articulated in this second song through the aesthetic that I've been talking about. So this is complete contrast to their earlier song, very much in his, and recall Mr. and Mrs. 55, the song sequence which we have seen. So this song foregrounds Jabba's interiority and her love for Bhutnath as her authentic self. The ending of the film, I've just put it down because it ties up with the theme. So the ruined Haveli and its inhabitants, you can see Choti Bahu remain dedicated to her husband. Of course, there is this controversy about this last ride in the Ghoda Gadi, where she puts her head in his lap, in Bhutnath's lap, which everybody was very shocked by, so that was taken out. But I have seen actually a version many years ago in which she puts her head on his shoulder. Even that is not there. Anyway, and so people say that there is this desire for Bhutnath. I don't think that the way in which the film sequences are shot actually, I don't actually believe that, because her desire for her husband is so very strong. And then you saw this ruined, her grave, the Kangan, and it's a very, very beautiful dissolve in which you see her. You can, in this one it's not so clear, but you can actually see the ribs and so on, and her saying that adorn me, and so that people say ki Sati Lakshmi gayi hai, right? But the space for him, for Guru Dutt, for Bhutnath, that is, it is her spirit that haunts the Haveli, and he continues to think of the Haveli and Choti Bahu there. So leaving the ruined feudal past behind and moving to a future different and more modern, the last two shots, the allure of the past and the contradictions of the present. Alvi's direction is enhanced by Dutt's presence as producer, actor, and conceptualizer of the film. And then finally, Guru Dutt, the choreographer of human emotions, his articulation of the Indian melodramatic form brought to it a balletic fluidity and grace that was beautiful, distinctive, and very moving. As he developed his critiques of capitalism and its prostitution of human emotions and values at the altar of capital, he expressed his sympathy for the poor and for the oppressed women through an aesthetic molded in music, and that Manickal identified as sculpting with light. Even in films he produced like Chaudhary Ka Chand and Sahab Bibi Aur Ghulam, that are critiques of feudalism, his contribution and his aesthetic are visible, especially in the song picturizations. A tragic figure who left the world too soon, Guru Dutt lives on in the exquisite cinema he created.
We are truly indebted to you, Ira, for sharing this morning with us. And I think for all of us who are such lovers of cinema, this was really a treasure, and we will really treasure this session forever. Thank you so much.